There were two tensions in the presentations that I'd like to see explored more. I think they're real tensions. I don't think they're, things that we can resolve here, but they complicate our strategies. One of them is someone, I can't remember which of you, said something like, you heard somebody say in Gaza, we don't want no more aid, no more humanitarian aid, just, stop the military assistance. And that sort of suggests go home and deal with, what is, completely the source of our oppression, which is U.S. military aid to Israel. And on the other side, of course, is all these convoys going and humanitarian assistance and ideas about solidarity gestures. Those seem to me kind of two different strategic positions a little bit, and maybe not. And then I'll just say the other tension is more analytical. And that is, Norman was talking about enlightened public opinion shifting, and I think it's true, towards more understanding, more acceptance of the legitimacy of the aspirations of Palestinians after the outrage and, the war crimes in Gaza. But on the other hand, we had what Medea reported about, which is, oh, well, it's Israel, stupid. That's still so pervasive. And how do we address that? And I think it is deep in Congress, but I don't think it's only Congress. And I don't think it's only AIPAC and Jewish, Zionist organizations. It's, Christian right churches. I mean, that idea that Israel can do no wrong, that's so pernicious.
Well, let's take those one at a time. Sam will talk about your first question.
Yeah, so to the first part, I think I mentioned that what Gazans are asking us for is to go back and explain to people what we saw in the U.S. and to stop supporting stop financially supporting their destruction and sending weapons over to Israel. I didn't hear anybody asking for humanitarian aid, which does not by any stretch of the imagination mean that people don't need it and that we don't owe it to them for what we've done. I mean, I think we have a certain amount of restitution to pay. But I didn't hear anybody saying also, don't send humanitarian aid. So I just want to be clear on that. But yeah, I think what I heard over and over again is that people know how to live their lives and build their lives. It's just, it's really hard to do when bombs keep falling and guns keep firing in their direction. So that's that first part.
I just wanted to comment that I don't see the two as in conflict because there's a common denominator to the two aspects that you mentioned, and it's the common denominator which, in my opinion, at any rate, is the most important. I mentioned that Amnesty International issued 2 reports during the Gaza and after the Gaza massacre. One was a comprehensive report entitled The 22 Days of Death and Destruction, but actually the more important and the more precedent-setting report was their first one, when Amnesty International, as all of you know, the foremost human rights organization in the world, came out for the first time for a comprehensive weapons embargo on Israel and the Palestinians. And the Palestinians, obviously, it's meaningless because all they have is firecrackers and Roman candles. But on the Israeli side, it's very significant. They called on the United Nations to embargo all weapons, and in particular, it focused on the United States. They went through all the weapons that were used in Gaza. The phosphorus weapons were all, every single one, made in the United States. They showed the pictures. And now we have the foremost human rights organization in the world supporting a radical demand, a comprehensive weapons embargo. And it is being felt. As some of you know, the UK yesterday announced that it was banning several weapons transfers to Israel. And the article said it was because, and I'm quoting the Israeli article from Haaretz, it said because human rights organizations were putting pressure on the Foreign Office. And so we again have that enlightened public opinion not only on ending the siege, but also a comprehensive weapons embargo. And that I see as the common denominator which we should be working with. To say, look, it's not some fringe group that says no more weapons to Israel. It's Amnesty International that's saying it.
Joaquin?
Having been involved in this subject for a number of years, I recognize the fact that one of the major components for any real change in this country on this issue is going to be the Jewish community. And so I'd like to have address the panel, and particularly Phil Weiss, whose work I've admired for many years in the New York Observer. And I want to encourage every single one of you, if you have not yet subscribed to his blog, mondoweiss.com, to do it tonight when you go home. It is fantastic. It is one of the best things that is out there today. And in terms of giving a running analysis and commentary on what's happening inside the Jewish community and outside of it on this issue, that is the place to be. So I want to ask the question. You know, I headed up an Arab American organization, the largest in the country, and talk about hitting your head against the wall. I mean, it was I spent 4 years in Washington, and the Congress was Israeli-occupied territory. Today, we're seeing some cracks in the edifice. At least we're getting former Congress people who are speaking up. And I think that we're seeing some other cracks, partly because of 9/11, partly because of the economic situation our country is facing. But I want to know really what you think is possible in terms of the Jewish community, because I think that that is an absolutely critical element.
You know, I had this running argument with my roommate in Gaza about this very question. And I would say that Jewish identity is a critical component of this, and the Jewish community is a critical component. And my roommate would say that it's a sideshow. And by the end of our trip, I was largely convinced by my roommate. I mean, this is an argument that I've been having in my own head for many years. And by the end of the trip, my roommate had largely convinced me that, I mean, the enormity of the persecution in Gaza was just so tremendous. It was such a human issue. It was such an American issue that my Jewish identity struggle struck me as somewhat indulgent. Now, my roommate is here tonight. He's Samer. So he can give his explanation of why he believes that. I continue to vacillate on this issue because we had the argument again just now in the park we were talking about. And I think, I guess the critical factor in all this from my engagement now is that the Jewish left, the progressive Jews on this issue are powerless without making a coalition to Arab Americans, to Gentile Americans, to disaffiliated, to all different groups. If this argument is maintained within the Jewish community, my team is going to lose. And so I am empowered by my roommate and by the other connections, by the connections I made in Gaza. But I mean, I continue to be engaged in this, and it's a difficult struggle. I think that the fact Medea's change on this, that she has been so I'm just so gracious about her acknowledgement that some of us have come to this issue later, and there are other people who've spent 20 years. I mean, that reflects a real internal Jewish dialogue. And obviously, Jews are so crucial to not only the political process in the United States, but to liberal activism, that it's a battle that has to be carried on. But having said that, I want to turn the microphone over to Samer, because I think he's, in the end, is going to be more convincing on this.
Okay, I mean, so I would not disagree that the Jewish community is very important on this issue. I think every community should have a voice. And the problem right now, I think, with the reason why there's no political traction on this is that as long as it remains kind of locked in this tribal struggle, if that's the narrative, then you really don't have a lot of people very invested in caring about it. If it's always seen as kind of a special interest issue for a very small minority of the American population, then it's never going to carry the weight of what it needs to be, a popular movement for human rights, regardless of who those people are and who's committing the crimes. So I think it would be more powerful to relate to people in so-called red states using the stories of fishermen, where you have a lot of people who do fish and take that very seriously, or hunt and take it very seriously, and take that whole ethic of being self-sufficient very seriously. And so, I mean, there are other ways to reach out to people beyond this ethnic thing. And I think that ethnic thing only reaches a very, very tiny percentage of this population. And yeah, I'd hate to see it stay locked in that percentage.
I don't know. Hello? Yeah. I just want to add something that, in contrast to the experience of the people who went to Gaza, the real scary place in terms of hate, aggression, and hostility is actually Israel. And I just want to take a moment and to honor the activists in Israel, and like the delegation who was stranded in Israel rather than get into Gaza, to acknowledge the work of the Coalition of Women for Peace and many other activists. And we should try and give them a voice also. Thank you.
My name is Michael Smith. I'm with the Committee for Open Discussion of Zionism, which is one of the organizations that sponsored this meeting. And I just wanted to share one reflection with you and make one suggestion. And the reflection is this. I've been, along with Abdeen and Helen Schiff, not 20 years, but 40 years. In fact, 50 years ago, I was in Israel this month when I was a kid, when I was 16 years old. And I didn't know very much. I was from Milwaukee. Golda Meir was from Milwaukee. My parents sent me to Israel. But I knew enough to know that something was wrong there. And 10 years later, when I was 26 and practicing law in Detroit with Abdeen and working with Helen Schiff, we started organizing around this stuff. And here's my reflection. This, from my point of view, and I'd be interested in what you have to say, Ab and Helen, this is a historic gathering right here. The breadth of sponsorship of this meeting and the fact that 200 people came to it, there's some momentum going on now. We really have an opportunity to seize the time on this. And I thought that Norman's suggestion and Medea's suggestion on an organizational effort, using this kind of broad support and going over there right after Christmas and organizing others to just go here. We did that. That's how we built the anti-war movement during Vietnam. You had a goal, and you went around and you organized on campuses and here and there and everywhere, and that's how you turn people out. That's how you organize. This is the beginning of that. And if we use the boycott-divest stuff, and if we use sending people over to Gaza, we can organize around that, and we can use this as a beginning. And I hope that the broad coalition that came together to do this continues to stay together. Everybody should sign that mailing list, and we should have an organizational meeting and start reaching out, particularly try to get more young people involved. If you look around, there are a lot of young people standing over there, but most people are my age. And we could do this. We could really do a terrific organizing effort in the fall, and we could get people out, and we could start turning corners on this. Thanks.
But I just had a thought that maybe we need to launch that march from Washington, D.C., from the halls of Congress, and that will give people who cannot maybe make the trip to Gaza to enter the halls of Congress and to begin a mile-long march in those halls, take over the congressional offices, and join Code Pink and the others that have been there and enter those halls and begin the march from there. And that would actually make it a much huger presence in the United States where it has to be, and then we will let them know we're there and we're heading to Gaza. So please, anyone that might not have raised their hands because they can't make it to Gaza, make the commitment. Everyone in this room can make it to Washington, and we can launch it from there.
Hi, Naomi Allen, Brooklyn for Peace. I just want to address the issue of whether it's worthwhile and important for us to address the Jewish community, to try to win away the Jewish community from the stranglehold of AIPAC. In Brooklyn, we have made the Jewish community one of our major audiences, one of our major targets for our work. And we talk to ministers, and we talk to students, and we talk to anybody who will listen, but in terms of our strategy, we're trying to work on Jews. And the reason for that is, what is it that gives AIPAC its strength? Aside from its money, of course, it's the fact that it claims to talk for the entire Jewish community in the United States, if not the world. And that's not true. We know that's not true from all the polls that have been done, that most American Jews do not agree with the agenda of Israel with regard to the Palestinians, or Iran, or many other things. But as long as AIPAC can make that claim and nobody can forcefully refute it, they're going to continue to run Congress and run the country. So I think it's very important for us to try to establish a voice for the Jewish community which is not in their pocket, and to make it, and this helps undermine AIPAC's authority and power.
My name is Nikki Ledger. It's good I'm dovetailing on Brooklyn because I'm a member of the Park Slope Food Co-op. All right. Okay. We have 15,000 members. There's a nascent boycott movement. As soon as the Jewish Daily Forward got wind of this, they wrote about the co-op as though it were exclusively a Jewish organization. And shortly thereafter, a very threatening phone call was received by the co-op, threatening death, bombing. It was said, this is hearsay, that it was either from Israel or an Israeli voice. And we're kind of dead in the water right now, sort of floundering. And any of you who are not deterred by this and would like to join the co-op in order to work on this, in order to appear at meetings, write letters to the editor, vote in favor of a boycott, it would be great.
Hi everybody, my name is Uruba and I'm Palestinian. English is my second language, but I'm gonna try my best to express my feelings. I just want to tell you that the case of Palestinian is not a tunnels case, or it's not a borders case. It's a case of a nation there. Like, for example, I'm gonna talk about the prisoners whom you talked about. Like, for example, there are 11,700 Palestinian prisoners in Israel who are suffering under torture every day and every hour. Like, for example, they put them in cells, which is 1 meter by 1 meter for more than 60 days, without light, without sun, with rats on the floor, and like they hang them on the roads for more than 12 days. On roads, naked, and even if it's in winter, they don't care about that for more than 12 days. And like there are 198 Palestinian martyrs who were killed in jails, and nobody talked about them. Like, for example, Gilad Shalit, the Israeli prisoner, you know, all the United Nations and everybody was talking about him and want to release him. And even Israel claimed that they attacked Gaza to release Gilad Shalit. But the 11,700 Palestinians, nobody cared for them. And there are many, many cases. I'll talk about the disabled people. The disabled people, like the father of a family who has, like, in the last attack, he lost his both hands. Can you imagine, like, you're gonna expect that the whole family will die after that, because he can't afford his family, he can't work, and he's just waiting for humanitarian aids, which is harder getting into Gaza. So my point is, I really, really beg you to go to Gaza, not only to pressure, but also to talk to those people and see the cases who are not shown in the media here, and nobody talk about them. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Daniel Strum. I'm with Adala New York and a new organization called NYCB, New York Campaign for the Boycott of Israel. This is a group that formed right at the beginning of this latest massacre in Gaza. It came out of an effort by Adala New York, which has had its own long-standing BDS campaign going for the last 2 years against a Israeli diamond magnate named Lev Levayev. These are currently campaigns that are going on within New York City, which you could start supporting now. NYCB started as soon as the bombs started dropping on Gaza. It was a call out of Adala, New York, for people interested in working on BDS to come together and to try to start working together and choose a target. After a long process, we chose Motorola as our target. And so there is already a national boycott campaign that was started by the U.S. campaign to end the Israeli occupation against Motorola, also against Caterpillar. So we took on the Motorola campaign, and we've been a little bit slow in starting, but we are getting going. We've had 2 demonstrations so far this summer. We are going to be having 3 more demonstrations this summer about the Motorola campaign. You could get information about it on our website, which is goodbyemoto.org. Okay, so please support the initiatives that are currently running in New York, and I really want to thank Medea and Code Pink and everything. I was also a delegate on the delegation, and I came back just so energized and also feeling like this is amazing. This is what I've been working almost full time on Israel-Palestine for the last 2.5 years, and feeling like this is just such a hard struggle, and to see an organization like Code Pink stand up courageously and support Palestine was something that is like, this is the payoff. This is what we have been working for. So from Adala, New York, I really want to welcome Code Pink to this struggle.
Generous in that regard. One other thing before I go to other questions, because I think there are some other questions, is yes, okay. And I would like to just tell people that on August 4th, in this room at 7? At 7 o'clock, and hopefully won't be quite as hot as it started off to be in this room today, but there will be the organizing meeting for the campaign that we're talking about in Gaza, August 4th, which is a Tuesday. So just so you're aware of that. Now, further questions. Let's start here. And maybe given the fact that there is a little bit more room maybe people can come up here and we can sort of have a speaker's line.
Hello, everyone. I must say I've been conflicted about my name, how to introduce myself. Until recently, I am proud to tell you my name is Mahmoud Batar. I've been here 30 years, and I was born in Jerusalem. And when I first felt that I have the courage to come out and speak, just to be in public and not be embarrassed of being Palestinian, or just say that I want to go back home. There is something next to my heart that aches, and you know, it's hard to explain. I mean, when you're here and you feel secure, you don't think about the pain that's in your heart. But, well, let me start from the beginning. About few months ago, I was at a lecture at Forum, and I met Norman for the first time. And I was there because of my son. He's 22 right now, and he's in Jerusalem. My family is still in Jerusalem. And I said to Norman, I'm not optimistic. And actually, I feel optimism today, even though I am, what you're experiencing right now, or what I'm experiencing right now is excitement, actually. I'm not afraid, but I am feeling optimistic for the first time. And when you're in the presence of something historic, and I want to echo that and second that, no one has to tell you. I feel something good is about to happen, at least for the near future. So I want to just salute everyone here at the panel, and I want to thank you. I want to stop too.
My name is Morton Sobel, and I just want to underline the problem we are facing. The problem we are facing is throughout history, we've all been fighting against anti-Semitism. Now, all of a sudden, we reverse the call, and we're asking people to fight against Semitism. This is a horrendous problem. How do you cope with it that the Jews who've been persecuted all their lives suddenly become the persecutors? I think we have to recognize that problem that underlies this and address it directly rather than just stating the problem as it exists. Because stating the problem as it exists is not enough.
Hi, my name is Naomi Brussel. I'm very glad to see so many different groups represented here. I went to many demonstrations during the massacre, and of many different organizations who didn't seem to know that the other ones existed. And I'm very concerned about the fragmentation of the left and of this particular part of the left movement. But I'm wondering about the Jewish groups that are actually identified against the policies of the Israeli government, and that includes JATO, Jews Against the Occupation, Jewish Voice for Peace. I'm just wondering if you have any of the panel would like to comment on the work of those organizations.
I'm sorry, I was distracted from it. You're wondering about the work of Jewish organizations on... They're great groups. They're fabulous. There are members of JATO who are here tonight, who I've seen. Daniel was a member of JATO. There's another guy here who's a member of JATO, Jews Against the Occupation, which started 8-9 years ago. And Jewish Voice for Peace, based in chiefly the West Coast, they've been doing amazing work. So I think that this is, to address Morton's point, these groups are helping to address this issue, to sort of reverse this kind of understanding, which I think is critical if not central.
I wonder if I can just make a brief comment. One of the problems when you're part of the left or you're over 40 is or you live in New York, all three are problems in general, is that you lose sight of the world out there. And the world out there looks very different than I think how we perceive it in this room. All you have to do is read the Jewish publications, all of which are panicking because American Jews, to use their term, if you look at the poll data, American Jews, again to use their term, are distancing themselves from Israel. And there are all sorts of campaigns being undertaken, one of which many of you know, Birthright Israel, which was fortunately bankrupted in the Madoff scandal, which were initiated because of the precipitous decline in American Jewish support for Israel. And in particular, there's been a huge decline among under 40 Jews, Jews in the 35 age and under generation. If you think it's hard to be pro-Palestinian, let me tell you, go on a college campus nowadays and try to be pro-Israel. Now that's really dangerous. That's really taking your life into your hands. It's very seldom that you'll see students, apart from maybe a handful of faithful around the Hillel, who are going to be wearing T-shirts or buttons supporting Israel. It just doesn't happen anymore on college campuses. And events supporting Israel, even if they bring a high-profile figure like an Ehud Barak, may bring out 150 people. An event with a high-profile person critical of Israel will bring out 500 people. It's a very different world out there. There's absolutely no grounds whatsoever to be despairing now. And the reason for the change is perfectly obvious. American Jews, their two most salient characteristics are, number one, they're liberal and they're highly educated. 79% of American Jews voted for Barack Obama. It was a higher percentage than Latinos that voted for Barack Obama, which was about 76%. But when you factor in income, it's amazing. 79% voting for the liberal candidate. Number two, Jews are educated, highly educated. It's impossible nowadays to get an education in the college campus and not learn a lot of the dirty laundry about what happened in the history. It's not even in the Israel studies programs, which was another concoction in order to wean students back to Israel. They have to tell some of the truth. And so there's an opening now. You can't be liberal and know the truth and support what Israel is doing. It's not possible. How can you possibly be liberal, read a Human Rights Watch report which says Israel was dropping white phosphorus on hospitals? Now that's downright satanic. You read another Human Rights Watch report which came out a couple of weeks ago. They described the drone-launched missile attacks. Now, the drone-launched missiles are the most sophisticated piece of technology in any military arsenal in the world. They can detect micro spots on you from a quite far distance. The missiles have the capacity to be diverted from their target up to the last minute. And Human Rights Watch is describing how these drone-launched missiles are firing at kids on rooftops They had to know, says Human Rights Watch, there were children there. They had to know their targets were innocent. They had to know there were no Palestinian militants in the neighborhood. They had to know all of that, and yet they're targeting these missiles at these little kids playing on the rooftop. How can you be liberal, know these things, and still support what Israel's doing? And so it's no surprise you're not going to have a meeting at a college campus where kids are going to come out and say, yeah, drop white phosphorus in Al-Quds Hospital. Oh yeah, let's drop white phosphorus in Beit Lahia School. It can't happen. It literally cannot happen. I spoke maybe at 20 or 30 schools during and after the Gaza massacre. Those supporting Israel wouldn't even show up. They don't want to even be there. It's so embarrassing. It's so impossible to defend what Israel is doing. It's become, and I don't say it proudly or happily, because anti-Zionism is not my cup of tea. I have a bigger vision, but it's become a satanic state. Everywhere you go, wherever it leaves, all you see is devastation and devastation and devastation. I'm kind of embarrassed to say I was not shocked by what I saw in Gaza. I was not shocked. Why wasn't I shocked? Well, about a year ago, I came back from what I saw Israel do in South Lebanon. And it just looked the same. It's just rubble, rubble, and more rubble. It's like a marauding state. Amnesty International described how they would go house to house, taking their anti-tank, anti-mine weapons, putting it at the supports of each house, and blowing up house after house after house after house. 4,000 homes destroyed, 13,000 homes damaged. Just the houses I'm talking about. And then you look at the comparison. Amnesty had a comparison. It didn't call it a comparison, but you can make the comparison yourself. Let's leave aside all the factories that were destroyed. Let's leave aside, they even went in and destroyed a chicken farm. 65,000 chickens, as Amnesty said, they killed. Their bulldozers and tanks killed 65,000 chickens. And then when you come to Israel, total damage, total damage. Several houses partly destroyed and one house almost destroyed. That's it. Total. Several houses partially damaged, one house almost destroyed. And then you go to Gaza, rubble, 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 wherever you turn. How can anyone who's liberal and Jewish support that? I'm sorry it takes something like that to open people's eyes, but there's no grounds at all, really. There's no grounds for despair or hopelessness. We have the truth on our side. We have the facts on our side. We have justice on our side. And finally, we have mainstream enlightened opinion on our side. With those weapons and our own energy, conscientiousness, and just a tiny little bit of backbone, with those weapons, I say we can win. It's not impossible. It's winnable.